Welcome, everybody, to another episode of MC Fireside Chats. My name is Brian Searl, and I'm in Florida at the Florida Alabama Conference. Trying Wi-Fi by standing right by the window here. We'll see if that works. And then I got to get in an elevator, and we'll see if that continues to work as we do the show. But welcome to another show. It's our fifth week, kind of one of those weird episodes where we don't have recurring guests. We've got a lot of special guests here that we're going to chat with and talk to. We've got Ashley and Duncan and Marie. So let's go around and just please briefly introduce you guys to yourself. And then if I drop off while I'm in an elevator, I will be right back, I promise. But keep talking about something interesting that's not hard. I think you can't, I mean, it's easy to do better than me, is my point. That's what I was trying to say. Please introduce yourselves.
Perfect. So I'll start.
Duncan?
My name is Ashley. I am from Connecticut, third generation of my family owned and operated campground. So it's been in our family for over 50 years now. And I'm also heavily involved in the industry as a whole. Nationally through OHI, as well as regionally and locally. So I just like to be involved in all the things. So I'm happy and honored to be here today, and I look forward to chatting with you guys.
Great. Okay.
I appreciate it. Duncan? Or whoever wants to go ahead. I'm getting in an elevator now.
No, it's fine. Oh, okay, I'll start. So my name is Marie. I'm based in France, actually, although I'm English. Coming from France today. I've been working for Park4Night for just over 4 years now. So we basically have an app that is used to find spots for people that are traveling in RVs and camper vans, mainly in Europe, but we've just started to come over to the US as well. So yeah, it's pretty interesting for us, and I'm pretty happy to be here as well and exchange with you guys on that. So,
is it Marie or Mary?
Say that again. Sorry, there was a bit of a cut in the internet.
Just how do you pronounce your name? Is it Marie or is it Mary?
Marie.
Okay, just making sure. I didn't want to say it wrong the whole show. Duncan, last but not least, sir.
Yep, name's Duncan Winship. Own Papoose Pond Campground with my wife Kitty. This is our 10th season of owning it. I think our 13th season of running it. I'm excited to be here. Oh, Waterford, Maine. Also knows Nowhere, Maine.
How close are you to Scott Bar up there in Maine, Duncan? Do you know?
Scott Bar. I don't know how far I am from Scott.
You know
where is he at?
I'm going to go ask him right now. He's like down here at the show, but he lives in a small town in northern central Maine, I think. So that's what I was asking. So anyway,
so if he's like Bangor area, it's about 3 hours.
I don't know. I'll have to ask him. Anyway,
find out.
So yeah, I heard you guys asking. I normally am on the show 15 minutes before it starts. We were talking backstage, and I normally prep you guys a little bit, but no, I don't have anything planned. I have nothing when I show up to the show to talk about. So we just kind of talk about what are the trends and what's going on and what's interesting. And obviously we talk about the people who are here. Marie, we're going to get into your app and talk about the European camping scene a little bit and how you think that translates a little bit into the United States where you're trying to break in with your app. Where do you guys want to start, though? Do you want to start with Marie?
Yeah, why not? So as I said just before, we're a European-based app. So we started actually in 2011. And it started just with 2 people adding 11 spots on an app, just trying to find places to stay with their vehicles. And it's just grown organically. So a lot of word of mouth, user recommendation, and it's grown just kind of incredibly over the last, we're celebrating our 15 years this year. So it's grown incredibly over that time. Yeah, it's pretty cool. So now we have, worldwide, we have over 370,000 places. We have over 9 million users. And it's in over more than 100 countries now. So it's pretty big. We're coming across the US as well because we started to grow enormously in the US as well. We've noticed a big change in the last 12 months with over 140,000 active users as well in the US. So it's grown enormously. Over 200% of places have been added, an increase in places added to the app as well since 2024 in the US, and over 100% more places in Canada. So yeah, we're pretty excited to be coming over to the US and seeing how you guys do things as well.
So I think my interesting question to you first off is given the reach of your app and the audience, and you're mostly Class Bs and camper vans, or are you all sizes in the United States too?
It depends, really. I mean, in Europe, mainly smaller vehicles. But in the US, yeah, we were meeting people because we went to some of the shows in Hershey and in Tampa this year.
Okay.
And it's a whole mix. I mean, really bigger vehicles generally in the US, but people that are starting out, that are renting vehicles as well, people that want to come to Europe. So a whole range of people and a whole range of places. So it's pretty cool. Yeah, it's a whole mixed bag.
So I think one of the most interesting things I'd like to ask, and guys, if you have a question for Marie, please jump in too. Like, we want this to kind of be a collaborative discussion. As people photobomb me in the background. Tell me a little bit about your insights as you come from working with 100 different countries with people who are looking to go camping all across the world, both in Europe and obviously probably in Asia, and maybe a little bit in Africa, North America, Canada, and everywhere else. Are there differences that you see in the camping, like the way people behave, the way they book, the way they're looking for places to stay? Or is it generally the same across 100 countries?
No, there's quite a large range of differences. I think it depends on the country really as well, because Europe is quite vast. We've got people that we've got countries like the UK that love booking ahead. They prefer to plan their trips. It's much more based in probably smaller vehicles still, but they like to have the reassurance of booking places, down to kind of your France, your Spain, your Italy, where they're a bit more maybe happy to go on a trip and not really know where they're going to end up. So it's quite a range of different uses. And we found the same thing actually in the US when we attended the shows. There were some people that like to plan ahead way in advance because they wanted to go to specific spots. And some other people that just preferred to see what they found along the way. So it just depends. And I think sometimes it depends on the vehicle as well, obviously, because if it's a big vehicle, it's kind of important to be able to know you're going to be able to park up at certain spots as well. So, but the good thing about the app is you can use it how you want. Like some people, they like to book, they like to be able to have that advantage. So we added a booking possibility for a certain number of places in the app. So at the moment, there's the possibility to book through their booking platforms or through our booking partners as well. And other people just like to find literally a spot, like just spontaneously, just to turn up and search and see what's around them. So it's pretty cool for both kinds of people.
You see yourself, having gone to Hershey, and you said, I can't remember the other show you said you went to. Was it Tampa?
Yeah,
Tampa. Okay. Those two, having gone to those two shows, I'm sure you've done some research on the competitive market in the U.S. Is there a competitor that you can point to that you think is maybe doing something similar to you? Obviously, of course, not as well as you, but similar to you.
I mean, we have similar kind of apps, I would say, because apps are quite popular, obviously, now in general life. So I would say there's probably a lot of travel apps. The only difference that we did notice a lot is that we're not really an affiliate program. So I think a lot of the time is a kind of affiliate base, whereas for us, it's more kind of a community-based app. So it's users that add places, or campgrounds can add themselves too. It's basically free, so people can add themselves if they want to, if they've got a place, even if it's not a campground, if it's just a private RV area, they can add their places, they can get some visibility in the app. People can also use the app for free, so it works from that sense as well, so they can see what they like about it as well. And then there's other additional options, so if they want to do more with the app, there's a paid option. If owners of places want to have more visibility or more advertising, there's a paid option, but it's not like they have to do that. So I'd say that we're not really the same, because it's kind of just word of mouth and more recommendation, and that's why people like it, because they know that other people are recommending those places, and they can see the comments about the places in advance. So that sometimes makes their decision over where they're going to stay.
Do you end up giving any data back to any of the park owners as part of either the paid or free options, just to kind of see how it's working for them?
Yeah, there's options to do that as well. So they can track how they're performing as well. So yeah, it just depends what they're looking for, because obviously bigger campgrounds, maybe they want some kind of statistics, that kind of thing. So it's one of the paid options. They can do that. They can get statistics back about their places. Yeah.
Duncan, you're pretty sophisticated over there in Papoose Pond, although you still haven't got any AI services from me yet. I'm still trying to convince you. But you're pretty sophisticated. Tell me, like, if you were to list Papoose Pond on an app, like, and maybe you already have on Marie's app, what would you expect to get back as a campground owner?
Either data wise or overall exposure are kind of two different questions.
Yeah.
Data feedback, I would love to see throughput of like how many people see my park, what pictures do they like about my park, what type of information would be around the guest, are they big campers, are they small camper vans, are they just tenters, whatever information they previously stayed at, so that way I know where those visibilities are really showing up. And then that way I'm like, oh, for Park for Night, I do really well with our kitchen and bath sites, where people put up tents, it has a private kitchen, bathroom, that kind of thing. Those work really well. So I'd push like segments versus like more our cabins, glamping options. That may not be something that fits into that, sector, and would push in a different direction. But that'd be where I'd be looking for data wise out of the app.
I think that's the biggest thing for me is, and please address that in a second, Marie, if you were going to start to. I think that's the biggest thing for me is the data. Is there? It feels like, having been in this industry 15, 16 years, the outdoor hospitality industry, and specifically focused on the United States and North America, although I'm trying to push a little bit into Europe, but definitely don't have as big of an understanding, obviously, as you do, Marie. But it feels like in the United States and in that North American market specifically, that what we have for apps and what we have for, I guess, OTAs, which would be like a Spot Tonight or something like that, right? Go Camping America, Hip Camp, stuff like that. It's very fragmented in that there's no real one place like the hotel industry where you can go and book everything.
Sure.
And there's a lot of people who claim to have millions of people who visit their websites. Maybe they're your audience, maybe they aren't, maybe they're from your state, maybe they're not, maybe they're looking to RV, or maybe they're looking to glamp, or maybe they have a Class B or Class C that fit your park and they don't. And so there's a lot of what I usually run into from a lot of owners when I'm talking to them about their marketing is, I don't know where to list. Do I pay everybody? Do I pay them all? Like, who has the traffic, who doesn't? And so how do you kind of work through that with owners? Like both Duncan from your perspective, but also Marie, how do you make sure that the owner feels comfortable that their time is being well spent, that their money is being well spent?
Sure. I mean, we spent quite a lot of time actually at the shows exchanging with campground owners. There was a lot of people visible at the shows, both in Hershey and in Tampa as well. And I think the confidence booster with Park for Night is that we don't. There's no necessity to pay upfront. We just said, look, add your place, try it out, see what you think. There's so many options you can do without having to pay straight away. See how you feel about it, and then there's an option as well to have different options of visibility to pay for. If you want, for instance, a bigger icon on the map, up to if you want to have a banner that pops up on the map. So, I mean, there's different options available for different places. Some places, we have to remember as well, are much smaller and have a much smaller budget. So it's kind of to include your kind of small private places down to, sometimes it's people that just have one or two places, up to campgrounds that have thousands of places for various different kinds of vehicles. So we just say to people, add your place, try it out, see what you think. And if you want to add extra options, if you feel it's working for you, go ahead, let us know what you want, and we can contact you and see which one would probably be more applicable to you. So it just depends really on the type of place it is and the kind of visibility that they're looking for as well. I would say as well, the budget is not pretty big with Park for Night. I mean, our offers are not crazy prices. So it just depends on what you're looking for. But I think that you still get a good amount of visibility just from being on the app for free as well.
What do you think about this, Ashley, like at your park? And what I mean by that is not Marie's app specifically, obviously. Although if you're on it, then you can talk about it. But how do you think about, like, as a park owner manager, and same question to you, Duncan, after Ashley, like, if you want to answer, how do you think about where you spend? Because it's not just money. It's not just paying $50 a month here, $25 a month there, whatever the cost is to whatever app. It's also the time you have to spend optimizing your listing, uploading photos, making sure you're consistent, making sure guests know exactly what they're getting and it's not misleading. So how do you think about that from a time and money perspective, actually?
Yeah, definitely. That's great insight there. So yeah, I mean, we're family owned and operated, and we're hands on, 24/7. Our family is in it. We have a smaller team, and we are just in it all the time. So time is definitely like the biggest factor when it comes to it, right? Because you want to, anything that you're putting out there, whether an app, a website, anything, which now, like you said, there's so many different apps, there's so much visibility that you can get now. It's crazy. So you definitely want to streamline where you're putting up your information and what benefits you and your park the most. So I know people always compare the camping industry to the hotel industry, which it is very similar, like it's lodging and all of that. But I think what's so unique about our industry, which I brag about all the time, is that every campground and every RV park and any unit has their own niche. So for us, we have a very small town in Connecticut, southeastern Connecticut, and we're very rural. We have 3 campgrounds in our little town, and they all market completely differently to a completely different demographic. So for ours, we are more of a destination park, family friendly, generational friendly, all of that. So for us, for instance, we really market to the generational camping, and we encourage our guests to stay on site. So we have a little restaurant on the property. We have all sorts of amenities. We're right along the river. We have kind of activities and amenities that market towards each generation. So if a family is coming in and they have, the grandparents on the site next to them, and then the kids and the grandkids and all of that. So we kind of have activities that lean towards that. So for us, we market that way. So we're, heavy on Facebook, for instance. We're heavy on Facebook, but now we're also on TikTok because we have the younger generation that comes in and all of that. So we just had a grandmother call in and said, "Hey, my 11-year-old granddaughter found you on TikTok and wants to come to your campground." So we were like, "Hey, that's great," so it kind of benefits them both ways. So it is very interesting. And like Brian was saying, to have kind of a app or a location that kind of streamlines all of that. And then to jump back to what Duncan said too about what kind of data and information you would like to get out of it as an owner or operator. That is huge because in our industry, we are so data centric. And I think the more data you can get data out of anything. What the difference between the hotel and the camping industry is, we go off of the weather. If it was a rainy weekend, we're going to have lower occupancy than if it was sunny, whereas a hotel, it might not matter so much. So data is huge. And we are also in contact with, our local RV dealers and all of that. So we can see from the top, how many RV sales are you getting and all of this, and it kind of trickles all down. So yeah, data is just everything. So for an app like Marie's, I think it's so interesting to see, what is attracting people to your park when they first look or find you on the map? Is it locationally? Is it, the guest demographic compared to your marketing tactic? All of that. So I think it's really unique. I'm going to look up your app after this, Marie.
Yeah, no worries.
So thank you.
Problem. Yeah, and I also sorry to interrupt you. I think it's nice as well to have feedback in terms of the users. So that's why we have the possibility to add comments. And really people choose their destination a lot based on the comments, the most recent comments, the comments that correspond to them and what they're looking for. So if they feel like it's something that appeals to them, if they've had other reviews from similar kinds of people that are traveling in the same way, so other families or other couples or other older people or other younger people, it can really influence as well the kind of places that they choose. So that's a really nice way as well to have feedback as well about your places. You get the comments, you can see what people think, what they liked, what they didn't like, what they preferred to do, if it was easy to find you, how it compares to other places they stayed, what they liked about, if they liked the restaurant. There's so many different things you can get back about that as well. And I think it's a really important feature for the users as well, as I said, so it works in both ways.
I think one of the interesting things we have right now, and Brian, you kind of touched on it a little bit, is that it's the maturity and immaturity of the camping industry that we don't have one platform to rule them all. You know, we haven't had that singularity happen. And so there's just so many different directions to try to swing at. I mean, just social media is one facet of it. Review sites is another facet of it. OTAs is another facet of it. And it's we haven't quite seen consolidation like we've seen in cruising, which is its own, type of travel and things like that, where cruise agents and travel agents still seem to play a major role. And then hotel bookings, where online seems to have gone everywhere. I can't remember the last time I called an actual hotel. And then campgrounds, where it's almost all three in some respects. And so I think we'll continue to see navigation as we continue to see larger players, and we go from single entity corporations to multi-park corporations, and we'll see some real changing landscapes, I think, in the next 5 years.
The way I think about it, and the way we talk to typically our clients about it, is, you only have so much time at your campground. So you're not going to be able to do all the things that you just mentioned, Duncan, right? Plus Marie's app and RV Life and Good Sam and Spot Tonight and right? All of those things. Or at least you're not going to be able to do it well. And so pick your lane and pick a couple lanes and stay in them. If you're really good at TikTok and you feel like your audience at your campground is the type of consumer who would be on TikTok, or has an 11-year-old daughter who would be on TikTok, or granddaughter who would be on TikTok, then you need to be there, or you should be there, or you should at least consider being there, right? And think of the strategy that pertains exactly and individually to your park. What ranks for your park when you look at City RV Park in Google or in AI? Does it show Hip Camp? Does it show RV Life? Does it show Good Sam in addition to your websites? And if it does, then those are websites that you should be optimized on. And so I think the answer is not one size fits all for everybody. It's not your demographics on Facebook just handle Facebook anymore. It's your demographic is where your demographic is, with a capital. Is it a capital Y? Can I make it a proper now? But you understand what I'm saying, right? Do you guys kind of resonate with that as park owners? Does that make sense to you? Or?
Oh, absolutely. You have to figure out, like for us, it's always a big push because we book weekly. We don't do a lot of seasonal guests. We only have 5 out of the 240 sites. So we push really, really big to get them to come back before they leave. That's when you're going to find the most incentive on your pricing. That's going to find best availability. So that way the marketing dollars are spent at the park versus having to go out into the ether, where then you have to capture it through Google Analytics, different, meta analytics. You have all this other data sources versus physically being at the park and getting that booking data fresh from yourself. You are your own data source. And so I feel, picking that as our main lane. And then, for those that don't rebook, that's when you start reaching out to either in-person camping shows or advertising or just organic traffic through your social engagements.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's always been the challenge for people. Like, I'm at the Florida conference, we're sitting in it. It's just early. It's the first day. We've only said 1 or 2 sessions so far today on the first day of the conference. But there has already been some good conversations about just how do I focus my difference between long-term and short and transient, long-term and short-term? Do I go after both? Do I focus on one? Do I focus on the other? Do I focus on the younger generation or the older generation? And I think it's like, to your point, Duncan, about us kind of being in this weird transitory phase in campgrounds. I think we're for sure going through that, especially as the boomers transition out and whoever comes next transitions in. And what I mean by that is obviously younger people transition in, but I don't think there's been quite as much of a focus on Gen Z or younger millennials, or especially Gen Alpha, because the boomers are still around and hanging out and still stocking, especially these parks in Florida, with a ton of people, right? But as we start to do that shift, you have to start thinking about, where is my next guest coming from? Do I target the generations just like I talked about? And I don't mean to put people in generational buckets, but just for purposes of the show, for a concise conversation, everybody's different, right? But how do I adjust my marketing? How do I adjust where I'm going after? Because let's face it, like, we're going into a summer where gas prices are really high. That tends to help our industry Scott Barr has a lot of data about that as a recurring guest on the show. But there's still probably a threshold number of $5-6, somewhere around there. And maybe we don't get there, maybe we do, where it might start to hurt us. And the economy is certainly starting to hurt us. We're seeing reservation data in some places be softer than it was last year and in 2023. Not a normalization, a softening over COVID and everything else. So then you look at apps like Marie, who reach all these international travelers in 100 different countries. And we know international travel to the US is down, at least from Canada and some other places. But there are still certainly people coming over here. So if you've got somebody in Europe or in Asia or in Africa who's got Marie's app, who's been part of this community for years, that makes almost sense to kind of go after, if your audience is international and if your type of guest is potentially international, to reach out to them. So everything is niching, is what I'm trying to say. Figure out what your niche is for your park. Gather your data. Figure out who your guest is. When are they coming? Why are they coming? Who they are? What are they like? Where are they coming from? Gather as much data as you can, and then go out and figure out where you need to list and market your park. That.
I mean, I think that's a great point, because it's like in hotels, a double queen room is a double queen room. You go in, it's 45 feet by 45 feet, and that's the shape of it. And you can go into, you could put me into any room in almost anywhere in the country, and I couldn't tell you where I was if I didn't look out a window. Versus if you go to campgrounds anywhere, like from Maine, the Maine coast, the woods, the rivers, the lakes. I mean, just our state alone has a diversification of being dictated by the topography versus like Florida being dictated by its topography. So every single park is different by the sheer fact that nowhere in the world is it exactly the same. So your niches are going to be different. Your groups are going to be different.
What I was waiting for you to wrap it up. I was like, that's probably what he means, but is he going to say it? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I was going to get there. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's so true. And I think like for our industry, we're seeing the trend lately with marketing where it's like the nostalgic and all of that. So like people now correspond like camping and campfires and being outside and all of that with nostalgia. So it's almost like you're getting, I guess, like the middle-aged people wanting to camp and then like relive their younger, and then also the Gen Z that are coming in and they're like, they don't necessarily want all of the technology. They want the access to the Wi-Fi, but they also want the option to like put it away and put it on do not disturb or whatever. So I think like that's a unique thing about our industry too, because like Duncan said, it is like hotels, they're the same, they just put you in a room and it is what it is. Obvious, like a lot of times you go to a hotel and you're there for the location or the destination or something in the area, whereas a lot of times campgrounds, you are the destination. So or if you're near like a national park or something really cool in your area, that is too. But it's definitely unique. And I think a lot of times too, like you were saying, when's the last time you called a hotel to book a hotel room? So, and I think a lot of times when people go camping and all of that, I think they still want that, like they want the human connection and all of that. So I know AI is getting so big and all of that, which is so beneficial in a lot of ways, but I think our industry is unique in that sense where people just want that human connection a little bit.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, people will
and
always.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead,
Absolutely.
Marie.
And also the kind of sense of adventure of finding something that just surprises you in all kinds of ways. I think that's a really important part of RVing as well, is that you can just be surprised by somewhere and just you want to remember that place. You want to go back to that place as well. And, that's part of the camping experience, isn't it, as well? So
yeah, I think Ashley hit the nail on the head with the term nostalgia. And I think as you were talking about newer generations and younger generations coming in, they went camping with their older generations. They went camping with their parents. They went camping with their grandparents, and they have these memories around it. And so I think that drives them to look for a period that isn't our modern period, but something that's from a younger mindset of like, oh man, I really enjoyed making s'mores with my grandparents, or fishing or hiking or swimming in the lake or all that kind of stuff.
But there are less and less people, and we have this data. Scott Barr has this data, and so do I to a certain extent, a little bit. but he has a lot of data from his surveys, more than I do, about Gen Z and Gen A. There are a whole lot less people who are going through that type of experience, though, as a child, Duncan, than did in the past. There are a whole lot less people who are going camping with their parents and grandparents in the last, let's call it 15, 20 years. Then there still is people who do that. Of course there is, right? But generationally speaking, from a majority standpoint, there's a ton of people in Gen Z and Gen Alpha who have never been camping, who want to go outside. We have the data on that too. They want to be outdoors. They want to be in nature. They don't know how to do it. They were never taught how to do it. They were inside on screens. Whereas when you and I, Duncan, and Ashley, and probably Marie were younger, I'm dating us all. Sorry, I don't mean to lump you all into an old bucket like I am. But like when I was a kid, I was out in the backyard climbing trees, falling down and spraining my wrist and skinning my knee. And like they don't do that as a blanket statement. There are still people who do, and there are exceptions, right? For purposes of the podcast, we're just going to stereotype everybody here real quick. But there are less and less people doing that, and I think that's a concern. And so, like we talked about from the back end of how you need to almost niche down, and you do need to niche down and figure out who your audience is and all the things we just talked about. I wonder, and especially as I sat in this session here with Robert Preston, was talking about the difference between long-term and short-term, and how he doesn't feel like you should be siloing them or separating them, which is a somewhat controversial opinion, because our industry has long been like, either you're a long-term park or you're a short-term park, or you're a mixed park, and the long terms are in their own section and the short terms are in a different section. But his point is if you treat every guest the same way, in other words, your site has to look the same as a transient guest, whether you're here for 6 months or you're not. Your point about hotels, Duncan, is like, I mean, I could walk into a Residence Inn by Marriott and I would have no idea that that's an extended stay hotel, except that I know the brand is extended stay. Just like you could probably walk into an extended stay America, and the only reason you know that's a long-term hotel is because of the name. And there are certainly exceptions to that, and people don't run their franchises all the same way, right? But generally speaking, is a blanket statement. So I almost wonder if if the front end should not be niched down, but the back end should be from a data perspective. If you think of the front end as the campground experience, as the in-person guest experience, should we figure out ways to treat all campers not the same, but have the ability for each camper to enjoy the experience the way they want to enjoy it? And that's where I think like maybe we're just making this too complicated from a front end perspective. Like we released a report on Gen Z that we worked on with, like Scott wasn't a part of it, but he had his eyes on it before we released it from Insider Perks, and it's available on our website. You can go download it. But it talks about, one of the ways that it talks about how to get Gen Z involved is there are some Gen Zs who want to be in groups and want to socialize, and there are a whole lot more who don't want to be in groups and don't want to socialize. But if you give them the ability, one of the ideas that was in the report, it was just an AI idea. It wasn't my idea, right? But it was to take have green lanterns available, like painted green lanterns that you can put on a pedestal or right outside your site, and that signals to the other Gen Zers or other campers that you're open to being social. You're open to somebody coming up and saying like, "Hey, how you doing? You want to hang out by the campfire? You want to go roast marshmallows? You want to chat about your experiences or where you've been or where you come from?" But if you don't have that lamp on, then you just want to be left alone, and you want to be. And so I think there's just ways. What I'm trying to say from a front end experience is, I think there's ways to bring everybody together as a community, which I think we've lost a little bit of. Not in campgrounds. It may be the last bastion of community, right? There's ways to bring people together as a community, versus on the back end, you want to break them apart because you need data and different ways to get them there to begin with. Am I off topic, or what do you guys think as owners?
I mean, I would say that, yeah, community in the camping industry is a huge part of it, and a huge part of how big your family is. Family units don't get together the way they used to, and communities as a cultural, at least here in the United States, is a huge subject of discussion as well. As we become more and more polarized and things like that, I think it will continue to be a challenge. And is it up to us to lead it? Is it up to us to try to manufacture it? Is that what people are looking for? Is that manufactured experience? I don't know.
Sometimes, but not always. But if you give them the option, right?
Like you have to, so you provide it and then you just let them self-select,
right? Yeah, like just like you have a community fire pit that you know not everybody's going to use. The people who want to take part in the community and meet their neighbors will navigate to that community fire pit or go to the ice cream social or turn on the lantern or whatever it may be, right? But if you have an experience where, and this is a blend of a couple different topics, right? But if you if you have what Robert's talking about, if you have standards and set expectations and say the long-term guests are the same as the short-term guests, then there's no more concern about the short-term guests seeing a bunch of junk outside of a trailer or an ugly fence or not feeling like they fit. They don't know whether the person next to them is long-term or short-term because everybody is treated the same. But you still have facilities
that's a great
for both
point,
long-term.
though, and I think that's how easy long-term guests, especially ones that are in a park year-round, can make a difference on their site because it's incremental little steps. Like first the shed shows up, and then the deck shows up, and then it's a deck, a shed, a fence, a dog run, storage underneath the camper, all that kind of stuff. Versus like these are the things that we allow, everybody must follow. And that's, I think, really well-run parks continue to hold those standards, both for their long-term guests and their short-term guests, versus the ones where all they have are long-term and they've kind of let it slide a little bit.
Well, and I think if you're all long-term, then there's probably if that's the type of park you want to run, and it doesn't mean don't think I'm saying that's a bad park, right? But if you want to be all long-term, then you don't have to worry about the transients or the different things, right? So I think that's a different animal. But if you want to be mixed, if you want to have people from different generations or short-term and long-term, or all the things that we're talking about, I think you've got to provide facilities and not just amenities, but ways that they can all enjoy it at their own individual level because everybody is different.
Sure. Yeah, and I think that's part of the community part of camping, isn't it? That you're going to meet a whole different range of people. You're going to be able to mix with people like of all different ages, with families, with older people, and it's kind of the experience as well. It's part of the experience of that, to be able to be able to exchange with other people that have loads of experience in camping and some people that have no experience in camping, and just to like share all of those experiences. I think it's a great part of camping for me.
Yeah, I think it's one of the most powerful things. Again, that's why it wasn't my words. I think Robert said it, was the one who said like the campgrounds are one of the last places that community really truly exists in America, were his words, right? I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, but he's close. He's not far off, right? And that we still provide that community aspect that you kind of like look back at the movies from the 60s and 70s or that are set in that period that kind of had, and the kids ran around the neighborhood and you didn't have to worry about them and all that kind of stuff, right? But I think it's also important for us to sometimes remember and I'm not a campground owner, but so you guys can tell me if you disagree, that not everybody always wants the community experience. One of the common things you always hear from campground owners, or at least I do, is, well, we're not the same as hotels because you can get outside and socialize with everybody. Yes, that's correct. But not everybody wants to do the same socialization. Mm-hmm. The boomers for sure did. They were a huge generation. They wanted to do that. The older millennials, the Gen X, they wanted to do all that socialization, and that's who still fills up the majority of campgrounds on a regular basis. Stereotypically, again, lumping everybody into a bucket for purposes of our short trimming, right? But I think it's just important to remember that people want different things, and if you're able to provide those things while maintaining a community and having it there and having it be the main focus, but it's not required to be a part of that community, then I think you can win on all aspects. Go ahead, please, Ashley. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think, you hit that spot on too. So we personally in our campground too, we're mostly seasonal and long-term. So we have about 200 campsites and about 2/3 of them are seasonal. So they stay with us the entirety of our season, 6 months. They leave their camper there in the winter, store it, all of that. And then we have a lot of transients too, but long-term. So we do a lot of weekly, monthly, weekends. We kind of have all the things. But we've built our seasonal base now to be so community focused, where exactly like you were saying, some of them do want the community. Some want, like the serenity of being in the woods or outside or, peace and quiet and all of that. So in our campground anyways, we kind of use either the reservation process or the check-in process as a way to kind of like interview our guests that are coming in. So, what brings you to the area and all of that. And, we don't have huge conversations, but just based on that, you can kind of gauge. So you can kind of gauge the guest in general. So we can be like, oh, well, we have this fun event happening at our campground this weekend, or if you're looking for more quiet, we have a winery down the road, great for date nights, or, that kind of thing. Or, if they're camping on a river site and they're a little bit more tucked away, we could be like, oh, we offer a s'more package, or, all these different things that you can, because each guest experience is different, and we're in the experience industry. So, and people love that. They just want to get out. They want the adventure. They want an experience. They want to go back and share pictures with their family, or share, an experience together, while also not breaking the bank in this crazy economy, which I think, like you said, is great for our industry too, because we have always kind of been known as the more affordable option for families, and all of that, while gaining an experience at the same time. So yeah, I think that's really, really interesting.
It'll be interesting to see if we can hold on to that affordable moniker. I don't
Yeah.
know if you guys caught it in the KOA report, but it's no longer affordable in the KOA report. It's approachable.
Yeah.
It's a very small word change.
Mhm.
We did our pricing report earlier in January too, or a couple months ago we released it. Camping's not as affordable as it used to be. It's still more affordable than a hotel for sure. So I don't think I'm not worried about it from that aspect, but it's definitely things that we need to pay attention to. Go ahead, Duncan. Sorry.
Well, I was just going to go back to Ash's point of first source data, because that you being in the park and your guests physically in your park are a great source of first line data. And then, who is there is going to really dictate to you kind of your point of like pricing, affordability. I feel like this is a term like PepsiCo just reduced all the pricing on all of its Frito-Lay's products because it lost some outrageous sum of money because it kept just going up on how much a bag of chips are. And so they have repriced their whole entire chip line. I think Doritos went down like $2 a bag because they found that people were like, this is reaching its threshold. And so I think the KOA report is talking about how we may be reaching pricing thresholds, like coming right out of COVID, there was a lot of appetite for price increase, and you could find price increases. I think now that that's kind of been baked into it, we may find it to be a lot slower than what it was.
From a pricing annual increase standpoint, I mean.
Yeah, I think it's going to be, instead of seeing some parks will get, change hands or something like that, and they may be grossly underpriced what their market should be. And you'll see like 10, 15, 20% price increases. But like established parks and well-managed parks, I don't think you're going to see 10, 12% increases in an overall lodging pricing. There may be certain segments where they unveil like these gorgeous glamping domes over what used to be tent sites, and that's now a 300% markup. But I don't think you'll see it property as a whole.
But how do you handle that as a park owner perspective, right? Because your costs are going up too. We haven't had this, we don't have enough time. I don't want to delve into the economics of the whole thing, right? But everything's going up in price for your campers and for you. Electricity, insurance, all the things are going up. With gas prices now going up, diesel affects the economy. Everything that you're getting shipped to your park is more expensive. So I agree with you. I think if you take away everything else, then the rollover year to year ends up being smaller. But how do you handle that as a park operator when your costs have gone up 10, 15%? You have to almost raise your rates the same, don't you?
Yeah, you should definitely evaluate your rates every year. You cannot hold rates because you think, my guests can't afford it. That's, looking at your first person data and then your second source data of what happens. But also think very cognitively of what you're doing expenses wise in your parks. We may not see massive capexes that we've been seeing for the last couple of years, or you may try to do something with one or two less people, just staffing wise, or being more creative in how you offer your community events and things like that, where maybe you can do it with less people or do it with more creative scheduling of people, and you're not quite as fat and happy as you were, and you tighten that belt a little bit. And that's where you make up the Z between the X and the Y.
To avoid doing the 10 to 15%, maybe you only have to do 7 or 8 because you've cut expenses.
You just are just smarter about it.
Sure.
What do you think, Ashley?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think, like you said, you can't, but at the same time, you can also elevate amenities a little bit to kind of justify, if you will, that increase or a little bit. Same with your camp store, based on how, you know, you're stocking things, or maybe going to a different supplier or a local supplier. Kind of makes that a little bit different too. We use, you know, a local supplier for all of our merch, our shirts, everything. She designs everything for us. We drive to her and pick it up. It's half an hour from us, and it's great. She's great and all of that. So I think, yeah, like you said, just being mindful of that. We see that too. We have a little restaurant on site. So with our food suppliers and all of that, it fluctuates so much. And I think 9 times out of 10, 9.9 times out of 10, the guests don't complain about any of that, because they're out in the world too. They see things. So if you know, they know how much things are and all of that stuff. So they go to our restaurant and it's a little bit more than it was last year. You know, they're going to understand that too, because at the end of the day, it is their vacation. So they're a little bit more
I'm
splurgy.
curious who actually remembers the prices from last year, because I can't remember what the price was of something I ate 2 days ago.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, that's it too. Same. I can't either. Every winter, somebody will be like, "Oh, what are your rates?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I said it 9,000 times last year. I don't know what they are now."
Well, I
So,
think
yeah.
part of
Half the-
dynamic pricing and yield management has changed also the way we have these conversations. And certain generations are used to a published rack rate. You know, it's $55 a night, and it was $55 when I set it in December, and I printed all my cards, and I'm going to own $55 a night forever. Versus what we see now, where it's like, all right, well, the weekend that you're choosing, I only have 2 sites left, so it's $4 more, so it's $74 this weekend. But if you come in Wednesday, Thursday, it's $64 that week, you know, and so it's harder to give off the cuff pricing. I think where
I can't tell if you're in favor of dynamic pricing or not, Duncan.
I love it.
Sounded kind of
I love it.
cynical.
I absolutely love it. It's hard from a guest facing operation where they're like, what's this price right now? And you're like, I'd have to look at the system and see. Is ultimately the answer, like, let me check for you, and here it is. And it's easy to do, but you know, there was a period of time where certain guests have to be re-educated that it is no longer the norm. And I think being smart on your pricing and your occupancy and shooting that gap between the two is another way to combat some of this inflationary pressure.
Actually, you're really involved with the young professionals, right?
Yes. I'm the chair of the young professionals, actually. Yes.
Sorry, I didn't mean to say you were just involved. I
Oh,
apologize.
no, please.
Chairwoman. I'm curious, if you take off your campground owner hat and put on your young professional hat for a second.
Yeah.
How do you view what we've talked about on the show today through the young professional side? Because I'm curious, and I'm just going to pick one thing to talk about, but you take it in any direction you want, right?
Yeah.
If I was Gen Z, and I was, which I'm not, to be clear, I'm way older than that. If I was Gen Z and I had grown up in a campground environment, are you Gen Z or no?
No. I'm a millennial, but
I'm a millennial by a year. I barely made it.
yeah.
But if I was a Gen Z young professional, right? And I was working at a campground, I would feel like most people were like me. In other words, most Gen Z had, just like Duncan said, they had the experience I had when I was younger. I was around a campground. I was camping. I was outdoors. I was in nature. I feel like most young professionals who are working in part of campgrounds feel that way. And I almost feel like it's harder then, because you've had that lived experience, to understand that the majority of Gen Z has not had that experience, and that you need to tailor it differently to them. So that's one example, but just take it wherever you want.
Yeah, no, that's actually so interesting. So with our Young Professionals Committee, I'm so proud of them. So shout out to all of them, because they're incredible. But we have a very active Facebook group, and everybody always posts, looking for suggestions on this or whatever. And we host our monthly happy hours through Ojai as well. And they're just so active and so energy focused and all of that. So yeah, I think that's a very interesting concept, and I'm actually going to bring it up in our next happy hour, because they are a lot of our young professionals are either grew up in their own family business, so they're involved in it in that way, And then, yeah, looking at it from that perspective, I do think a lot of them are very focused on that kind of nostalgia aspect as well, and kind of reteaching the disconnection type of thing. Because like I hinted on before, you know, Gen Z seems to want the access to the Wi-Fi and the technology and the modern amenities, but they also want that disconnection. So they don't want to feel like it's in their face 24/7, which is interesting because I feel like a lot of them, I'll use it, the older generation, a lot of them think that the Gen Z are like, you know, in their phone all the time and all of that. And I think, yeah. No, never. But I think, you know, that's kind of a misconception too, because they have them on, they know how to access information, but they also want that little bit of a disconnection. So yeah, I think that's really cool. And we're like in a cool place where the Gen X and the older millennials and all of that are kind of paving the way for that a little bit, and it's going to be kind of neat to see where this leads with the upcoming generation. And I mean, I had somebody call in the other day that, you know, they're like, oh yeah, I was born in '04, and that to me is like, what, wild. But I'm like, yeah, I mean, you're old enough. So yeah, it's wild. But so yeah, very interested to see where it goes.
Anything else you want to add from a young professional's hat?
I don't think so. I think a lot of our young professionals too, they're very data driven as well. So they're kind of always looking, and it's very interesting, the statistics and the insights and analytics that you can pull from a reservation system as well. And it seems like a lot that's another thing that's not fully streamlined because there's so many different reservation systems out there and so much technology and all of that. So we all kind of bounce around ideas along that line. But it's interesting, and it's also interesting to chat with them to see like, okay, so you work for your family, or you grew up in this and now you're working for your family. So what does the dynamic look like there? So it's not only generational, your campers, your customers are generational, but you're also, your staff and your team is generational. So kind of working that out too with like, you know, I work under my parents now. So, and then we have, you know, high schoolers that are with us as well. So it's very interesting to see that dynamic shift a little bit too. You know, not everyone is as comfortable using a reservation system, or so it's kind of all that learning curve and teaching each other, multiple generations, kind of bringing that all together.
All right, let's spend the last few minutes. And we usually end the show by having everybody ask each other questions, because I'm usually involved in asking bad questions the whole show. So we try to wrap it up with something good at the end. So I don't know if you guys have ever been on a show where you've done this before, but so Duncan, if you want to start, just ask any question that you want to either Ashley or Marie, and then we'll just kind of do a round robin and we'll wrap up the show.
Okay.
Is something you want to know from either of them?
I'll ask them both the same question, and it's a question I asked.
You got to pick one.
All right, I'll pick Ashley then. I'll pick Ashley, okay. And then I will ask you Hershey's or Reese's with your s'more.
Oh, I just asked this question the other day to our campers on socials. I say Reese's, always Reese's.
That's probably the quickest question that anybody has ever asked as part of a show like that. But that's
so
okay.
Can't go wrong.
Okay. I thought you were gonna. They usually ask something intellectual, Duncan. So I don't want to like slight.
That was very intellectual.
It's very fundamental. It really is. I mean, what do you want? Do you want it's like a hot dog, a sandwich? Like,
is a hot dog a sandwich?
I don't think
is
so.
A hot dog
a piece of bread?
Huh.
Should we go ask AI?
That was very.
Depends on which one.
Would they all answer it the same or differently?
No, I think it'd be all different. And I think it'd be different across models.
I'm going to test it as soon as the show's over. We're going to have a regroup show where we all get together again.
Yes, send me a message if what they said. But that would be like, that's one question I love to ask is like, what types of candies do you like on your s'mores? And then what happens is they go into your store and they'll buy every single candy I mentioned, try it, and then report back the next day.
Do you have an affiliate relationship with Reese's or Hershey's? Is that what you're trying to say?
But a lot of people think of Hershey's, but I like Reese's better.
Mm.
Well, I don't eat either of them. I try to eat like local chocolate wherever I can, which is way better than Hershey's. But there's no really comparison to Reese's. I will give you that. So, Ashley, do you have a question for either Marie or Duncan?
Oh gosh. Okay, I don't know if this is going to be long, but Marie, how did you get involved in this industry to begin with?
How did I get involved? Basically, I kind of fell into it a little bit because I was in the travel industry before. I was working as an air stewardess. So I was always interested in travel, and I really wanted to be involved in travel still. And then I just kind of got the bug for the camper van industry as well. So it was just like the combination of everything I love, of traveling, of having that experience as well. In the van, which is completely different to traveling any other way. And yeah, so I was pretty lucky because I felt like I've got everything that I love doing all at once. So yeah, it's pretty cool. That was just by luck. It wasn't at all planned.
Love that. That's awesome.
Usually always by luck.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Unless you're lucky enough to grow up in a campground family, then it's not by luck.
Yes.
Yeah, which is also super cool.
Marie, do you have a question for either Ashley or Duncan to wrap up the show?
Let me ask Ashley, if you could travel to anywhere in Europe, where would you go? What would be your number one choice?
I would say Italy. I have to say Italy. Yeah. It's my grandparents or my great-grandparents were from Italy. And my dad always is telling stories about them and all this, and it just looks so beautiful. So I would love to go to Italy one day.
Awesome.
Have you ever been to Europe at all, Ashley?
Never. Nope.
My answer, I don't know what my answer would have been to that question, but I really love Slovenia.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, I really love Slovenia.
That's a beautiful place, yeah.
All right, well, let's wrap up the show.
Places that are beautiful. That's the problem. It's too difficult to choose.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is difficult. There's so much I haven't seen yet, all over the world. So,
Yeah.
Marie, any final thoughts, and where can they download your app if they'd like to?
Yeah, you can go to the website. So the website's park4night.com. You can have a look on there if you want to add yourselves as well as campsite owners. Just check out and see what you think. Users can add themselves as well. They can create an account. They can start using the app for free. So, I mean, really, it's just a tool that can help people find, places to stay if you're a user. And for place owners like you guys, you can have some visibility and you can see different ways of advertising yourselves as well to a different community of people. So, yeah, I would recommend it definitely.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you being here, Marie. Ashley, any final thoughts?
No, I think it was great chatting with you guys today, and I'm honored to be here. And yeah, really good conversations.
Thanks for being here. Appreciate it. If they are a young professional, unlike me, where can they learn more about joining young professionals?
Yes, you can go to the OHI website. There's a Young Professionals tab right on there. Fill out our application. Anything. You don't have to be a park owner, operator. You could be in the activity department. You could be anything to do with the industry, a supplier, anything, as long as you're under 40, unfortunately. But yeah, you can apply there, join our Facebook group, join the conversations, happy hours. You don't need to be a member of OHI. And yeah, come and chat with us.
Awesome. Thanks for being here, Ashley. And Duncan, final thoughts, and then where should we start an old professional group?
I'm going to start a geriatrical professional group.
That's what I will
Brian,
join.
I'm going to invite you. We'll be founding fathers of the over 40, professional group. I don't have a website yet, but as soon as I do, I'll share. No, anyhow,
you don't need a website for the geriatric group. We find each other by walking around the mall aimlessly until we see each other.
There you go.
Any final thoughts, though? Did you say?
I would just appreciate it, and the fog of war lay thick upon the land.
I don't even know what to say to you anymore, Duncan. Speechless. But a hot dog is a sandwich for sure, and we're going to prove it on AI after the show. All right, thank you guys for joining us for another episode of MC Fireside Chats. I'm at the Florida Alabama show. Appreciate you guys all being here. Marie, Ashley, Duncan, for some great conversation. We'll see you next week on another episode of MC Fireside Chats. Take care, guys.
Bye, guys. Thank you so much.
Take care now.